Day 1. You have been awake for 24 hours. It does not feel serious yet. Your body is tired but functional. You move through your day the same way you always do, except something is slightly off. Concentration breaks more easily. A thought you were holding a moment ago is gone before you finish it. You reach for it and find nothing there. Your reaction time has slowed. Not dramatically, not in a way anyone around you would notice, but enough that you register it. You are a fraction of a second behind where you normally are. Tasks that require focus take longer. Conversations require more effort to track. The irritability sets in quietly, not anger, just a low resistance to things that would not normally bother you. A sound, a question, something minor that lands harder than it should. Your body is signaling something. You are not in danger yet. But the system is already adjusting, already compensating for what you have denied it. You feel it in the edges. And the edges are where it always starts. Day 2. You have been awake for 48 hours. The fatigue is no longer mild. It is structural. Your brain is now doing something you cannot control. It is forcing sleep on itself in fragments, brief lapses of unconsciousness lasting a few seconds at a time. You may not even notice them. One moment you are looking at something, and then you are looking at the same thing but slightly differently, and a second has disappeared. These are microsleeps. Your brain is taking what it needs regardless of your intention to stay awake. Your memory is deteriorating, not in the way forgetting a name feels, but in a more foundational way. Information is not sticking. You process something and it does not transfer. The immediate memory system is starting to fail. Decisions become harder alongside it because they require holding multiple things in your mind at the same time, and that capacity is shrinking. Your mood is less stable. Emotions surface faster and with less cause. The filter between feeling something and expressing it is thinning. You are still upright, still moving, but you are running on a depleted system that is increasingly unreliable. Day 3. You have been awake for 72 hours. The experience of staying awake is no longer just exhaustion. Something else is happening. Your visual system is beginning to distort. Shadows move slightly differently than they should. Objects at the edge of your vision seem to shift. Nothing dramatic yet, but wrong enough that you notice. Your brain is starting to generate information that is not coming from the outside world. Your body begins demanding calories with unusual intensity. The cravings are strong and specific, driven by your brain searching for any available energy source to compensate for what it is not getting from sleep. You begin making simple errors on tasks that normally require no thought. You misplace things. You lose track of where you are in a sequence. Confusion starts appearing in places it has no reason to be. The system is not failing at the edges anymore. It is beginning to fail at the center. Day 4. You have been awake for 96 hours. The line between what is real and what your brain is producing on its own is beginning to dissolve. Hallucinations at this stage are not rare occurrences. They are common. You may see things that are not present, hear sounds that have no source, or experience sensations that have no external cause. Your brain is no longer waiting for input. It is generating its own. Time stops behaving normally. Hours feel shorter or longer than they are. You lose the ability to accurately judge how much of it has passed. Your emotional state becomes unpredictable and disproportionate. Small things produce intense responses. The cognitive impairment is now severe enough that complex thinking is largely inaccessible. You can perform basic actions, but anything requiring sequencing, reasoning, or sustained attention is compromised. You are functioning, but only in the most mechanical sense of the word. Day 5. You have been awake for 120 hours. Paranoia has entered the picture. This is not general anxiety or mild suspicion. It is a perceptual shift, where the world begins to feel threatening in ways that have no basis in what is actually happening. You may believe things that are not true. You may misinterpret the behavior of people around you in ways that cannot be reasoned away because the reasoning system itself is compromised. Immediate memory is nearly gone as a functional tool. You cannot reliably retain information from one moment to the next. Your speech begins to reflect the cognitive disorganization happening underneath it. Sentences trail off. Words come out in the wrong order. The structure of language, which normally operates automatically, begins to require effort and still fails. Your ability to test your own perceptions against reality is weakening. You are losing access to the internal mechanism that would otherwise tell you something is wrong with what you are experiencing. Day 6. You have been awake for 144 hours. The exhaustion at this stage is not a feeling. It is a condition. Your entire body is operating under extreme physiological stress. Microsleeps are no longer occasional. They are happening every few minutes, sometimes in the middle of movement or conversation. Your coordination has deteriorated significantly. The motor system is unreliable. Walking, reaching, and basic physical tasks require conscious attention they should not require. Hallucinations are now frequent and detailed. Your brain has largely stopped distinguishing between internally generated experience and external reality. You are not always aware that what you are perceiving is not real. This is not a choice or a failure of willpower. It is what happens to a human brain that has been denied sleep for 6 consecutive days. The system has not shut down, but it has reorganized around survival in a way that is no longer compatible with normal function. Day 7. You have been awake for 168 hours. What is happening at this point crosses out of the category of deprivation and into the category of medical emergency. The symptoms you are experiencing are clinically indistinguishable from acute psychosis. Your cognitive function has collapsed to a point where independent rational behavior is not reliably possible. You cannot trust your perceptions. You cannot trust your memory. You cannot trust your own assessment of your condition because the faculty you would use to assess it has been severely damaged by the process itself. The longest documented case of voluntary sleep deprivation in a human subject is 11 days, set by Randy Gardner in 1964 under scientific observation. By day 7, he was experiencing significant paranoia, hallucinations, and the inability to complete simple cognitive tasks. He recovered after sleeping. But the medical community does not recommend testing that boundary because the risks at this stage are not fully predictable, and the brain damage question remains open beyond a certain threshold. Sleep is not a passive state. It is when your brain removes waste products, consolidates memory, repairs cellular damage, and resets the systems that regulate emotion, cognition, and perception. When you deny it long enough, those processes do not pause. They collapse. And what you experience across 7 days without sleep is not just tiredness taken to an extreme. It is the systematic dismantling of the functions that make you a coherent, functional person. Your brain does not deteriorate evenly. It deteriorates in layers. Judgment goes first because the prefrontal cortex is most sensitive to sleep loss. Memory follows because the hippocampus cannot consolidate without sleep. Perception distorts next because the sensory processing system begins filling gaps with internally generated content. And then the boundaries between self and environment, between real and not real, begin to dissolve entirely. Most people will never reach day 7. The body finds ways to take sleep regardless of intention. Microsleeps intrude. Consciousness lapses. The system takes what it needs. But understanding what happens when it does not is not an abstract question. It tells you what sleep is actually doing every night, which is keeping the architecture of your mind intact. By day 7, that architecture is gone. What remains is a system in crisis, running on biological emergency protocols, generating a version of experience that no longer matches the world. You are still breathing. Your heart is still beating. But in every way that defines coherent human function, the system has failed. That is what 7 days without sleep does to a person. Not gradually, in sequence. One layer at a time.